All right, now we're going to take a little bit and talk about hybrid synergy drive here for a moment. I'll try not to get too in-depth here, but really there's some great things to talk about here. This system is on our current Prius. This system goes back in some form or another now in the US market about 11 years, and we've been building the car for 14 years in Japan. The advantage of this vehicle really is its ability to be efficient on the road and use the power delivery that's most efficient for you at that time. That's why we call it hybrid synergy drive, the marriage or the synergy between gasoline and electric power. Let me ask you a quick question here. Electric motors, do they make a lot of power at low speed or high speed, or do you have any thoughts? Low speed, right? If you think about it, you look at the diesel electric locomotives out there pulling trains, nowadays. The diesel engines on those are doing nothing but turning generators to create current. The electric motors drive the train. It's a great way to move heavy loads. Well, the same thing with your hybrid synergy drive. So off the line or at low speeds, we're going to use electric power primarily because it's efficient there. Now, electric motors, though, their torque and power output tends to fall off as you make them spin fast. So at highway speeds or at heavy throttle settings, we're going to bring the gas engine in and start helping the electric motor, and eventually, at some point, do most of the work at highway speeds. Okay. So it really allows us to use two power drive systems here, or two energy sources at their most efficient level. Let's see here. Okay, so under the hood, we have our 1.8 liter four-cylinder engine. This is an engine we use in some other vehicles. This is specially modified for Prius and Prius V service. It's got some special treatments to the engine to make it more efficient. It produces a little bit less power, but it also consumes less fuel. The nice thing about our hybrid synergy drive system, though, that I think is really cool, is that it fits in the same area or real estate that a regular front-wheel drive car's engine and transmission would fit. If you took a Corolla that uses this same gasoline engine and you tore the hood off, and you tore the hood off of one of these Prius or Prius V cars, you're going to see that the driveline fits in the same area. So hybrid synergy drive is not some huge, unwieldy thing that's gargantuan in size. It fits in the space under the hood that it needs to. So it's very, very compact. We have two electric motors up under the hood there, along with that gas engine, that comprise the power sources. And our transmission only has one planetary gear in it. And one of the things that I like about this, and probably my favorite feature, we were talking about it at lunch, my favorite feature about our hybrid vehicles is that the transmission is probably the simplest transmission I've ever seen, and is by far the mechanically simplest transmission that Toyota builds on any of its vehicles. It's one planetary gear setup, there's no friction components in there, it's all controlled by electric motors. So these transmissions are very, very durable. And if you want to take a look at some of the consumer magazines out there and see how Prius rates on durability. Anybody see Prius taxi cabs out there? Those guys don't buy cars because they're flimsy, right? And in fact, I see a lot of old Prius taxi cabs still running around, and it's because they don't break. And the batteries last a long time. We'll talk about that more too. But some improvements we have made, because Toyota does make improvements as we move along, and you'll see one of the things that we try to do is to get your gasoline engine to warm up as quickly as possible where it's efficient. So current Prius uses a little device in it that actually runs engine exhaust through a heat exchanger to help heat the engine coolant up faster, just to get the engine hot quicker. On Prius V, we have a new version of this heat exchanger that actually does that 1 minute faster. And it's not going to save you a ton, but it's one of those little things that helps you get better fuel economy. Now, we've also made some changes in that transaxle, that transmission assembly that I was telling you about. And remember, Prius V is a bigger, heavier car. We also anticipate a lot more weight in the vehicle. It hauls the same number of passengers as Prius, but we have more cargo area. So our gross vehicle weight rating is much bigger. So what we've done now is we're going to water cool the main electric drive motor to help us regulate heat on that. Heat management is also very critical. We've also changed the gearing a little bit. We've gone to a numerically higher differential ratio there to help Prius V get moving. Once again, bigger, heavier car, more stuff, same transmission and engine. We need to have a little bit of a gear change to keep you accelerating good off the line. The battery pack is basically the same battery pack as Prius. It runs at a voltage of about 201.6 volts, and we can boost that voltage at the motor to about 650 volts as needed for a heavy acceleration. Now, here's your clue for tonight's challenge. What you can see here are the changes between Prius and Prius V's battery pack. It's the same number of cells and whatnot, but the packaging is different. I'll give you a little clue. These are the cold air intakes. And then I'll leave it at that. But you can tell me later. But anyway, this is packaged better so we have more space back here in the cargo area. The suspension on the vehicle is the same too, and that is It's a McPherson strut suspension, although everything is bigger on Prius V to handle the additional weight. But a McPherson strut up front. It has a nice new mounting system for the suspension components that separate the shock and the spring mounts into two separate mounts, and that helps smooth out your ride. These are some little things we're doing to make Prius V more comfortable, and also actually make it handle a little bit more sportily on the road, too. And then the rear suspension is a torsion beam, and we do this for packaging. This gives you a low cargo floor in the back. So once again, you have more space in that second row seat for yourself, and also all the stuff you're going to carry. We have a little ride quality video here I'm going to show you, and this is another new technological feature that is only right now only on this vehicle. Sorry, a little bit low tech here. So one of the conditions that you can have occur to you out there on the road, especially if you're on a freeway that has expansion plates or concrete segments, is you can get a porpoising effect on the car. It starts to pitch up and down, forward and back. Okay? This can be a little bit uncomfortable. If you're somebody prone to motion sickness, this can be very uncomfortable. But what we can do is actually regulate the power output of the hybrid synergy drive system to help counteract this and basically get this net result. And if you think about it, what does a car do when the driver in front of you smashes on the gas pedal? If you're behind somebody, it squats, right? Squats in the back. If you've ever been behind somebody who smashes on the brakes, what happens then? It nosedives, right? What we can do is actually apply and take away a little bit of power there at the drive line to actually make the car squat or dive a little bit, and we do it to counteract that porpoising motion and smooth it out. And this is something I've tested overseas, and it's very effective, and it's one of those things that just helps the car stay a little bit more steady on the road. If you can quiet those body movements down, it actually corners a little bit better, because now as you're cornering, you won't have the body pitching around so much. It lets the suspension do more of the work. So between that special shock mount we have and this pitch and bounce control here, we have a car that under hard driving conditions really stays very steady and composed. So you've got some versatility, and you also got a little bit of handling performance here too, to blend in with it. And then finally, we're using electric power steering. Did you guys notice that the car's engine would shut off today? Did anybody experience that? So if you got your gasoline engine off, you can't have gasoline engine driven power steering, right? It wouldn't work. You'd have a very heavy steering wheel feel. And also your air conditioning system, if it was a belt drive air conditioning system that is traditional, would also not work if your gas engine is off. So both of these components are now electric on Prius, and actually have been for a while. And Prius V utilizes the same design that we have on our current Prius sedan. The nice thing about electric power steering, and you're seeing this more frequently now in other cars too, and the nice thing is we can program the tuning of that steering to let you have the right kind of boost that you need in the car depending on how you're driving it. You know, how much boost do you want at low speeds like parking lots? You want a lot of boost, right? And it's hard to turn the wheel in a car when it's not moving very fast. At the highway though, you don't need as much help, so we tune it down that way. The other great thing is if you're not steering the wheel, if you're sitting there motionless just driving straight down the road, the system is not doing anything. So it's not consuming any energy or not using any of the engine's power. Where your belt-driven hydraulic steering systems are always consuming power off your engine and robbing you of horsepower and robbing you of miles per gallon. That sounds a little criminal, but they're not robbing you. You know what I mean. Noise, vibration, and harshness. Another one of those things like the little eyebrows. This is one of our biggest battles as a car builder. How to keep these quiet and also not make them so heavy that in doing so. So we're going to apply certain amounts of insulation at certain points in different thicknesses where we can gain a good sound reduction. We also work on the actual body. This is the pan of the unibody of the car, the floor of the car. We want to have that be very rigid and very vibration free. If you have a flat sheet of metal, it has a tendency to want to oil can or kind of vibrate up and down. And that can really create some crazy noises in the car. So we reinforce it at certain areas to help prevent those kind of vibrations. And then we put insulation materials in there to quiet it down. Talk a little bit about the technology here. This is one of my favorite instrument clusters. I really like this. Once again, being an old guy, I have a huge speedometer here. I can actually see that. I like the fact that my clock is green. This displays are just color coded. It helps me find things. So you can see here this person has a nice state of charge in their hybrid battery. You can also see they've been averaging 38.0 miles per gallon, and they've gone a whopping 3 miles. So this is somebody who just barely got started. But the other thing, did you notice your power meter over here today? Did you see that? Yeah. And did you see how that reacted depending on what you were doing with the gas pedal? As you depress the throttle, This thing will then move from the charge position up into the middle range or beyond if you're really mashing the throttle down. And if you get into the heavy throttle settings, your little echo light goes off. That's telling you that you're not driving economically. Which, for short periods may be okay, right? If you're getting on the highway, don't be too paranoid about that. But we will let you know if you're being efficient or not. And then, of course, if you're coasting or braking, now you can regenerate electricity, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and that will show up here in the lower section as a charge indicator. Then comfort and convenience. We have our one-touch climate control. Did you guys play with that today? It's kind of fun to use. I like this one. And this is unique to this car. We don't have any other like this in the Toyota lineup right now. I like the simplicity of it, but it is a little different. But you just toggle the knob side to side to select your mode, tip, or fan speed, and then you turn the dial to adjust them. So to me, it's very simple to operate. Steering wheel mounted controls. This steering wheel is directly off of Prius. We just pulled that and used that in this vehicle. Our Prius owners love this steering wheel design. They like the location of the controls, so we just pulled that and pulled that into this design and didn't do anything different there. If you had one of the Prius V5 with advanced tech package, you would have a dynamic radar cruise control button there. And unlike regular cruise, it will actually then, you can engage it and actually ask it to have a certain following distance for you. And you can change that from a short, medium, or long, depending on how fast you're driving. That's one of the technology features you get on the high-end car.